Okay, here we go. You can get the lights there, please. All right, so as you can see there, if you look at the coal fields of Pennsylvania, you can see where we are. Right here is Dauphin County. We are in northern Dauphin. Okay. And we ended by looking at this slide. Okay, so 1825, coal was discovered. Who are the two men that discovered coal? Bird and Kimes, yes. And where did they discover coal? Yep, down on Short Mountain, yes. I do want you to know a couple of details here. You can jot down by 1835 if you want to. Mostly by about World War II was when the end of the big coal industry occurred. Now, when I say that, I want you to understand it doesn't mean that the coal industry is not still big today. Question, Chloe? But what do you burn?
I don't know. We have AC.
How many people have AC? How many people have forced hot air? Oil. Does anybody actually burn coal? So we got about 3 people. There's your reason right there. If I'd asked this question 30 years ago, almost everybody probably raised their hand. 100 years ago, everybody would have raised their hand. Okay? So do note that after World War II, coal, the end of big business. The biggest year of production was 1917, and that would have been the year that United States joined World War I. Okay, so we'll take a look here. 1825, once again, Bird and Kimes, 1835, became big business. And again, I'll point out here that Bird and Kimes never actually made a whole lot of money out of the coal discovery. Okay? After World War II was when things started to taper down. And you don't have as much coal mining in this area as we once did. Coal production peak 1917. Would like you to be aware of that. 1917, that was the biggest year. And that is just here in the Lycans Valley. So you can round up and say about 90 million tons. Just here in the Lycans Valley. Now think about that. That's 90 million tons. That's not pounds. So obviously multiply it by 2,000 and now you got how many pounds that is. That was only 1 year alone.
Well, there's pretty much everyone had coal farms.
Yeah.
180 billion pounds.
But can you imagine how the mountains around here don't just fall in if you're taking that much coal on them?
Either wood or coal.
Yeah. Yep. Big business, as we can well relate to. All right, what you're looking at here, this is the Short Mountain Tunnel. Not going to ask you to really write anything down. Okay, but that's right up here in Short Mountain. That's the Lycans. Okay, that was one of the Lycans tunnels. All right, and it goes right through the mountain over to Bear Gap. So what I'm telling you is they mined on this side of Lycans, right through the mountain over to the Bear Gap on the other side. We'll take a look at some maps on that as well. Okay? I do want you to know about the mules. All right? I do want you to know about the mules. Mules were used very predominantly in the mines. In some cases, you might read where they say and claim that the mules actually went blind. That is not true. That's not true by a long shot. The mules were extremely well taken care of. Now, if you understand biology and you think about being in the dark all the time, that would definitely affect your eyesight. The mules were not in the mines 24/7. In fact, the mules were in the mines about 8 hours a day tops. They were always brought outside. They were treated very well. They were treated better than the miners themselves. Why?
Bigger investment.
Yeah, it's a big investment. If you're a coal miner and you're in charge of one of the mules and the mule dies, you're in trouble. Okay? Not only will you be fired, you'll be fined and it will be held up in the magistrate's office. Okay? Mules are treated very well. All right, here's the problem. So we got all this coal. The problem is there was no way to get it to market. And enter to our story a man by the name of Simon Gratz. This is actually a quote directly from the book. From Philadelphia comes Simon Gratz. Yes, the same man for whom Gratz, Pennsylvania is named. And he purchased the land in the east side of Bear Gap in 1831. What you are looking at is lichens. That's Short Mountain on the left and Big Lick Mountain on the right. Bear Gap up over the mountain. You can walk up there. It's actually part of the game lands on the right.
Are any of those buildings still standing?
I was going to ask that. Has anybody ever done that by any chance? Lichens area, walked up through there. Did you ever take a stroll up there? No? The only building that is still there, it's actually owned by the Savage family in Lichens, is this one. That building is actually still there. There's 3 guys that work in there. Now, they're not coal mining, but they're actually working on behalf of Rife and Nestor Corporation, and they actually work in there. A few years ago, well, it's been a while now, when things were different, we used to go on a field trip up there. At that time, you didn't have to have buses, and you could just get a group of parents, load up in a van, load up in a truck, and go for a ride. Now we have to have, school buses that don't travel too well up there. But anyway, Mr. Savage went along with us the one time. He's actually teaching up at Williams Valley. And when we went up through there, he found the 3 guys that are supposed to be working there. Well, they weren't doing a whole lot that day. It's just ain't that way. I guess they figured they're in the mines, so they don't have to do much because no one will ever check on them. Well, they were expecting to hear a car coming up through there, but we actually were walking up through there. So it kind of surprised them, like, oh, boss is here. I think you can understand what I'm telling you. Now, nobody got fired over it or anything like that, but they were told they better, kind of go back to work since they're getting paid for it. All right. Mr. Gratz, talk about him a little bit. Mr. Gratz is a man of means. Does anybody know what that means when I say a man of means?
Man of conviction.
Yeah, I'll give you that. If you think about Machiavelli, the end justifies the means. The means means your ability to do something. Well, Mr. Gratz definitely had the ability to do it. He had the means. In other words, what I'm telling you is Gratz had the money. He has the bucks. Okay? He's the man with the money. And what he developed was the first coal operations in the Lichens Valley. Now, not to digress too much here, but Simon Gratz actually never lived in the borough of Gratz. The town is named for him, which he bought the town really because of the coal industry. That's why he bought it in the first place. Now, his son lived in Gratz, though. Okay. His son actually lives in the home where the Norris family lives now. That's considered the Gratz family home. But he had the money, okay? And the Short Mountain Colliery then was called the Likens Valley Red Ash, and I would like you to be aware of that. Simply put, because when it burned, it gave off a red ash color. Okay, so pause here for a second. Let me show you what's going on. So we'll go up here to lichens. And once again, we're going to have the railroad, which is going to come into lichens right here. Okay, this is going to be the Likens Valley Railroad, and I'll tell you all about that. Went right up through Wiconisco and continues. You can see this right up through. It actually stops right up in here. That was the Likens Valley Railroad. And that was put in to haul coal. Also, it did haul passengers as well. Now, lichens, right here, once again, you have the sulfur ponds, and that's because of all of the mining that took place. Now, those buildings I just showed you were actually all right in here. And you can see one of them still there. That's the one I showed you. I guess they did build a couple more, but that's the only one that's originally there. You can walk right up through. Well, the Medco Road is actually private property, but right over here is game lands, and this road will take you right up through. And you can walk the whole way up into the Bear Valley. And this is where the Bear Creek comes down. Now, that said, let me show you what's going on. Here you have Short Mountain. This is the Big Lick Mountain. Okay. As you can see, Short continues right up through. And then right here in the middle, this is called the Bear Valley. Okay. This is the Bear Valley right here. Right in between the two mountains. All right. Bear Gap, Bear Valley. Short Mountain, Big Lick. Simon Gratz owned this the whole way over to here. And he owned what will be Grattsboro as well. Okay. The man with the money, so to speak. Okay, so let's take a look at this a little bit more. What do you see here? What do you think? It's not there anymore. That is actually considered waste coal. That was about 2.5 million tons. This all came right out of the mountain. And this was what they deemed junk coal. They couldn't use this. So the good coal went to market. The bad coal stayed right here. That was there until about the 1960s. I do want you to know this term. It's called culm. C-U-L-M. C-U-L-M. Culm. And that's considered waste coal.
What do they do with it?
Well, in the 1960s, they finally had to get rid of it. Luckily, what happened is they found a way that they could actually make charcoal out of it and also briquettes. Like if you have a propane gas grill, sits in the bottom of the grill, okay, that's what they made out of this. So they were able to get rid of it. But that said, you can imagine people that lived here on North 2nd Street in Likens, they really did have a miserable time.
So what made it wasteful?
It was just basically like cold dirt. It was like dust.
Yeah, so there was like no structure to it.
Exactly. Once they found a way to compress it really tight into charcoal, then they were able to use it. But at the time, that wasn't even worth their time. They were making more money selling the good coal than they were the culm banks and the culm itself. Okay. Down here, people that I've talked to who used to live there in the 60s, they would say that if you had a nice warm day and you went to open your windows, probably had a bad time of it because the wind would literally blow that dust right into your house. If it was a very rainy day, then you'd have nothing but mud and sludge here too. Okay, so it was really a sad thing. Okay, Short Mountain, you're looking at about 1,600 feet. And that one went straight down in the ground. Okay, 1,600 feet. Obviously, a mile is 5,000. Okay, so about a third of a mile. Of a mile. And there you can see some workers. Now, they would be on their way in at the time. So you're looking at about 1,600 feet. There you can see a better picture of the colliery. Another term I would like you to know is that word colliery. Okay? Colliery. As you can see, they called this colliery, not just mine, they call it a colliery. What is a colliery? A colliery is the entire mining operation. That's what I want you to know. The entire mining operation. Everything from the railroad to the tunnel to the breaker, you name it. That's what a colliery is, the entire part. Okay? There you can see another picture of it. That would be Short Mountain in the background. Lyconsboro would be off to your left. If you live in the Lycans area or have been to Lycans, you probably can recognize this. On the left is Short Mountain. On the right is Big Lick. And this is the Bear Gap right here. Okay? And if you walk up through there, even though this is private property, you can actually see there's still some coal there on the surface. All right? Again, Short Mountain, and then Bear Valley right in the middle. This is kind of the area that I was talking about where you can walk up through. You can see there is still some coal residue. Again, just be careful you don't pick up the slate. That will damage your coal furnace. Okay. This is from Route 209. And again, you can see the gap there. That would be Wickinisco. There's another picture of it. You can walk up through here. This is part of the game lands. Over here on the left would be where One Stop Recycling is. And you can see some of that area is not recovered from the coal mining. All right. Great picture. Take a minute and just look at that. Got a lot of things happening there. You're looking at about 100 years ago, about 120 years ago, right about 1900, turn of the century.
More than what's there now.
Say again?
Looks like almost more than what's there.
Yeah, I would agree. In some cases, yes. This is the railroad coming in right here. All right. If you walk along the rail trails, you know what I'm talking about. Up at the top, you have the Bear Gap, Short Mountain, Big Lick, and there's that coal pile. Look at how huge that thing is. Great if you wanted a job, but not the greatest thing for the environment. Okay? And there's your coal pile once again. I just want you to be aware that was 2.5 million tons. And once again, I'll mention DEP got involved in the 1960s and told them that they had to remove it. Again, luckily they found a way to get rid of it and then use it. Right?
It was a good job, but it was a job that you did not survive.
But you know what's interesting about that though? When you say it's a good job, if you look at accounts of people that were coal miners that mine the coal, like my great grandfather, he puffed his whole life. He got emphysema, got black lung, a lot of dangers.
That was a good job that came with a lot of danger.
It wasn't even really.
But you know, a
good
lot of the
job.
people that work there, I've never actually read of a guy that actually said he absolutely hated his job. They were very proud of what they were doing, very proud to go to work, very proud to give a day's labor. And, yeah, there were hazards, there were issues, there were health problems, but for the most part, they were very happy to go give a good day. That said, some of them were definitely mistreated. That did happen also. Okay. We'll talk more about that. I'll show you a letter that one of the coal miners wrote. Okay, but here's your briquettes and there's your charcoal. That's what they use the comb piles for. One last thing I want to mention here for today, then we'll take a break for today. This is called the Polish row. Now, to explain this picture, in the background you have lichens. Okay? Right here would be going down to Main Street, and then back in here, back about right here is where the Glen is. Okay? Heading back towards the Glen. This is the Polish row. These were homes that were owned by the coal company. Take a guess why they called them Polish row. Yes. Many, in fact, for the most part, all of the people who lived there were from Poland. They were immigrants. And they came here with one purpose, to work in the coal mines. Do you see something bad about living in the coal company house and you see something good? These were houses owned by the coal company. What's a good thing about it?
Free living.
Yeah. Now you have to work for it.
Oh, yeah.
What's a bad thing?
You lose your job, you're out of the house.
Yeah. And let's go one step further with that. Losing your job. You get hurt on the job. You lost your job. There's no worker compensation. I'm going to go one step further. They also had what were called mine patches, which were actually segregated communities where miners lived. If the husband was killed in the mines, the wife and children must get out of the house that day. Imagine that, what the family's going through, losing their father, their husband, and then at the same time, then they lose their house. But those things did happen. Okay? All right, pause there for today.
Really motivated you not to die.
Yeah. Thank you.